Fall is officially upon us, which means that the air is going to get cooler, the trees are going to get more colorful, and certain books are going to hit different. I've compiled a list of books that I think are best enjoyed in the fall, and I've switched on the camera today to share them all with you. Before we start, please consider liking this video and subscribing to see all my future uploads. Book number 1, Apocalypse Taco by Nathan Hale. So this book was recommended to me by my 8-year-old campers back in 2021. This is a graphic novel that's written for kids. I like this a lot more than I was expecting to. While it is a kid's book, it definitely has some spookier vibes to it, which is part of the reason I think it's good for the fall. It's definitely a lot spookier than I was expecting for a kid's book, but it's just the right amount of spookiness for someone like me who's an adult who doesn't love scary things. This is like the perfect amount, in my opinion. I originally read it in August of 2021, but when I read it, I was like, this is definitely more of a fall book. So actually, it's really short. I might even reread it this fall. Its spooky elements are more on the science fiction side of things, not the paranormal side of things, and it's way more cerebral and thinky than I thought it was going to be. Definitely best enjoyed in the fall. Book number 2 is going to be The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I find most fantasy to be pretty cozy, but this one especially because of its use of a soft magic system. If you're not familiar, a hard magic system is one that has like really specific rules and limitations to how it can be used, and it's pretty clearly defined what the capabilities of the magic are. Soft magic, on the other hand, is more squishy and has more possibilities, and as a result creates a really palpable sense of wonder in whatever story it's used in. Middle-earth, in general, embraces softer magic, which includes The Hobbit. I think that's what makes The Hobbit especially cozy, is that sense of wonder that its soft magic is able to create. Hobbits in general are just like the coziest beings that fantasy has ever come up with. I would give just about anything to sit by the fire in Bag End with Bilbo and Gandalf. This is a must-read for anyone who loves cozy fantasy. Book number 3 is going to be The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This gets brought up in pretty much every list of fall books that I've seen, and there's a good reason. Let's start with the obvious. It's a great example of dark academia literature. Dark academia is a subgenre that examines the dark side of academic institutions, levels critiques at elitism, and often uses death as a device to explore these themes. The Secret History takes place at an ivy-covered college in Vermont. Vermont holds a very special place in my heart. Tartt's fantastic prose shows Vermont in all its seasons and in vivid detail. The writing is really spectacular. The book is suspenseful, it has the hallmark dark tone of its subgenre, and even a hint of spookiness. It was a roller coaster from start to finish, and I'll definitely be reading it again at some point. It's been said many times by many people, but The Secret History is a perfect book for the fall. The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto by Mitch Albom. This is a severely underrated book. My sister told me about it, I think in 2019, and I read it in the fall of 2020. The book follows Frankie Presto, a fictional musician from the 1960s. About half of the book is told from the perspective of music. If you've ever read The Book Thief, it's kind of like a death type narrator where it's like a concept that's telling the story rather than a person. So Frankie's life story as told by music is like interspersed with testimonials from real musicians who are at Frankie's funeral. So really interesting kind of structure to it. And Mitch Albom does a really, really good job of making it feel very nostalgic, even though this person wasn't real, the events never happened, but it feels so nostalgic. I don't know how to describe it other than that. I think that nostalgic vibe is what makes this a good book for the fall. And last but not least, The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. If you like science fiction or classics, H.G. Wells is a great author to check out this fall, especially his book, The Invisible Man. This could be considered dark academia. It has a mad scientist who does some questionable experiments, which could be interpreted as falling under dark academia. But regardless, classics often feel dark academia to read, even if they aren't actually like fitting in that subgenre. So the scientist, as you may have guessed, is the one who turns out invisible. He's kind of the main character. Is he the protagonist? That's something that's a little bit questionable. Since it kind of feels dark academia to read, that would, in my opinion, be enough to recommend it as a fall book. But in addition, it feels kind of like if Black Mirror or The Twilight Zone was in the late 1800s. It has that kind of vibe to it as well. It not only looks at a mad scientist and the predicament that he finds himself in, but also explores themes of fear and widespread panic. I think that makes it a really great read for the fall. Thank you all for watching. These have been my 2022 recommendations for fall reads. Which of these have you read? Are there any you would add to the list? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear all of them. I'm always looking for more stuff to read, so let me know.